I'm Vicky Carter, and you're listening to the Let's Go Kickass Today podcast, Season 2, Episode 5. Every month, I interview people from the fields of music, adventure, and culture, hoping to empower and inspire you. And every time, they inspire me along the way too. All the interviews here have been recorded over our new favourite friend, Zoom. And it's the last episode of the year, 2020. I'm sure you'll join me in thinking, thank goodness it's over. Unless you've got shares in Zoom or started your own hand sanitizer business. In that case, good for you. In this episode, I chat to 80s superstar Charlene Oliver about the music industry and Motown Records.
Back then, I was really naive. I didn't understand. And it hurt.
I also chat to travel lover and author Chris Penhall about achieving her dreams.
I think that's what finding your dreams does for you. It makes you feel different about yourself, I think. So, and pursuing them, go for it. Nothing is out of reach.
And finally, I speak to spoken word artist and self-love enthusiast, Tenny Edwards.
If you think those things, you're going to attract more things that are going to make you feel that way, you know, that's going to bring you that misery.
First up is 80s singer Charlene Oliver. She tells me about what it's like being a young artist signed to Motown Records, touring around the globe and being faced with a whirlwind of radio and TV interviews, and how her duet with Stevie Wonder wasn't quite ready for the world. Or should I say, the world wasn't quite ready for them. How did it all begin? I think I've heard that it all began with dishes, actually singing over the dishes. Is that right?
Dishes. It sure did. I was living in a place called Topanga Canyon, and I had a little rural house up in the country, and I had like horses. Had horses in the backyard kind of thing. So I'm up there doing dishes, and my ex-husband said, "You've got a really nice voice. My friend just wrote a song called From Your Lips to God's Ears. I'd like to see if you could sing it." So we went into the studio at his friend's place. The speakers were huge, and there's the glass behind, and I'm not familiar with any of this. You know, I was just like, whoa, this is trippy. I feel like I'm in a fishbowl or something. So anyway, I go back and I get behind the mic and they put the track on. I heard the song. The song was beautiful. It was a beautiful ballad, right? I can't remember it at all, but all I know, it was really, really pretty. So I go, they put the track on and they said, okay, when that thing goes, you start singing. You remember? Yeah, I said, I think I can remember the lyrics, you know. So I sang it and I'm singing and they stopped the tape. And I went, what's happened? They go, come in here. And I'm like, oh my, what did I do? What did I do wrong, right? And so I came in and they put it on, they played it. And I hear it and I go, that's me? They said, Charlene, you're incredible. And I said, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I know I can sing like that. So then and I said, that's incredible. So then me and my ex-husband, he was playing guitar and I would sing and we'd do little parties and we would, things like that. So that was the introduction. The dishes, he heard me, studio, I sang it, it was great. And then we had another friend who, he wrote the theme song for Bewitched. Remember that TV show?
Yes.
Da, 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 da. So that was his claim to fame. And he was like really rich and it's like, wow. So we go to his house and he goes, I've got a song for you, Charlene. He heard the one that I did. He goes, you've got a beautiful voice. And I want you to sing this one. It's called Sweet Sad Clown. And I heard it and it was nice. It didn't knock me out like that first song did, but it was cute. So I did it. And he gave me a tape, a cassette tape. Remember those back in the old days? The cassette tape. And I carried it around with me, because it was like, oh, wow, it was really cool. And I was grooving on my voice. I'm like, wow, it sounds pretty good. I didn't know. So we went to a party and I met this lady named Nancy. And I said, oh, I want to play it. She goes, oh, I'm taking care of Sammy Davis Jr. Remember that actor from Ocean's 11, right? It was the old one, right? So she goes, yeah, I work with him and I help him out. She goes, I'm also dating Berry Gordy of Motown. I said, Motown, that sounds familiar. I said, oh, did you know Diana Ross?
How did it feel to go from singing in the dishes and not realizing your amazing potential to being escalated to these huge, ridiculous parties and rubbing shoulders with Motown Records? Yeah.
It was crazy. It was not, I've got a little problem with bringing things into my brain. I mean, I do. Nothing's wrong with me. It takes me a while to get it, right? And so I was like, yeah, okay. So I gave her the tape and she calls me. I met Barry and I'm signed to Motown. It took me a while to really perceive that. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm singing dishes, riding my horse, and now I'm signing with Motown Records. But I remember I went to Motown to sign. I was in my overalls and my cowboy boots.
Wow.
This is not a country label. This is a pop label. And it hit me when I said, oh my God, this is where Diana Ross sings. They were like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. And I met her when I got signed. I went to the commissary and she's there with Barry and all the production people and stuff. And so Barry says to me, he goes, so Charlene, you like to sing? I heard your song, Sweet Sad Clown. You sound really good. I said, thank you. He goes, will you sing that for me now? I said, oh, okay. Well, you want to? He goes, no, here. I said, okay. So I stood up and I sang it. And within 2 months, I was signed to the label, meeting Diana, meeting Michael as a young boy, meeting all the people at Motown. And I was like, wow. And then it started. And I was doing demos, singing like Michael Jackson. I was doing all that high stuff, right? And it was like, that's not me. That my Sweet Sad Clown and put lips to God's ears, that was beautiful and lower kind of a voice. And now I'm going, and I was working with Hal Davis, who did the Temptations, and I was singing all these songs. And this man comes up to me, a white guy, tall, blue eyes, black hair, kind of strikingly handsome, and he says, I've heard your voice. He's got the really deepest voice, sounds like God talking to me. He goes, I've heard you sing all these songs, and that's not the way you sing. I can hear the quality of your voice. He goes, I've got a song that I wrote for your voice. It was a man's version, but I put it into a female version when I heard your voice and the potential of what I think you can do, whatever. He doesn't know that I'm going through a really bad relationship. I'm trying to get out of it because it's like dangerous, okay? So I go into his office, he pushes a button, hey lady, you lady, cursing at your life, you're a discontented mother, regimented wife. And I'm the regimented wife. I just fell out crying. I know that you dream about the things you'll never do, but I wish someone had to talk to me. Oh my God, I needed somebody to talk to so bad in my life. So I'm crying and he shuts the thing off and he goes, I'm so sorry. And I said, Ron, his name was Ron. I said, Ron, you know what? This song is amazing. I'd like to try to do it. I'd like to do it. So he contacted Barry. Barry said, okay, you and Charlene go into the Motown studio, do a demo, and let's see what it sounds like. It was unbelievable. Oh my God, it was like the song was made for me. So Barry heard it, loved it, put us in the studio with a 30-piece orchestra, the best musicians ever. We do it, and it turned out beautiful. They released it, and it flopped, went like 97 on the charts, and it was gone. Well, I proceeded to record with Motown a lot. I was really disappointed because it was beautiful. It's like finally in my life, I couldn't believe I was singing with like Frank Sinatra's arranger, string arranger. I'm like, oh my, this is insane. I'm doing the dishes 5 minutes ago, and now I'm singing with Frank Sinatra's arranger who did the violins. I got very depressed, and I thought, you know what, this is it. And I met my husband, Jeff. I met Jeff in church. He said, come to London with me. And I'm like, oh my God, that's where the Beatles are. Let's go. So I go to England, and me and Jeff get married, and he gets me a job because I wanted to work. I didn't want to just lay around. I got a job in his cousin's sweet shop on Bow Road. And I'm working there, and I'm there. And, it's fun. It was fun. Get a call from my mom. My mom says, Charlene, somebody from Motown's looking for you. And I don't know what's going on. I went, what? And I'm going back in time. I rewind. And I'm remembering when we recorded that song in the studio. I remember, and I just started crying. I'm like, oh my God, that song. I knew all these people. And now that wasn't bad that I was living in England. It wasn't bad. I love it. But it was like, I went from all this potential of possibility to nothing, right? To not nothing, but just being
a different path in life.
Yeah, a nice, little U-turn or whatever. So I get a call from Jay Lasker at Motown. He says, Charlene, you're on the charts. And I said, this is a bad joke. What are you doing like this for me? What are you doing to me? He goes, no, you're on Billboard charts with your song, I've Never Been to Me. And I'm like, oh my God, I freaked out. So they come over to England. They do a video in Blickling Hall. Have you ever heard of Blickling?
And apparently you wear your wedding dress. Is that right?
Wedding dress. I was thin enough to get into it. Not now.
That's fabulous. I love that you wore the wedding dress. How fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I wore my wedding dress. It was beautiful. And this Blickling Hall was stunning. So they did this whole video on me. Then they go, okay, you got to come back to America. Will fly you back on Concorde Airlines. You're doing Good Morning America with one of the Bee Gees. And I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding me. So I'm sitting here saying, oh, does Barry Gordy know Diana Ross? And I'm sitting there doing Good Morning America with David Hartman talking about Charlene. And I'm like, I don't even know who Charlene is. I'm me. I think she's a double of me or something. This can't be happening.
That's incredible. Yeah, it feels like 6 months later, your life just drastically changed.
Just TV shows galore, radio, everything. It was unbelievable. I mean, just in England, I was doing all shows all over England. I went to Holland. I was in Germany. I don't remember if I went to Sweden. I don't remember. I don't know.
It's a whirlwind of shows and interviews. Then feels like a whole completely different life. It feels like you had different chapters.
It was a different life. And I was kind of in shock because I wanted it so badly before all this. Now it was kind of like a dream. I was kind of like, this is not really happening. I'm probably just I'm still sleeping somewhere and I'm having this dream. I don't know. So it was pretty crazy.
And from there, you also had a duet with Stevie Wonder. What was that like, recording with him?
Oh, yes. We released It Ain't Easy Coming Down. I don't know if you've heard it. Great song. It didn't do anything at all. Then I'm living back in England. I go back to England because I wanted to be there. So I'm back in England, and Ron Miller calls me, who wrote I've Never Been to Me. And he says, I've got your second single, Char. And I had known Stevie from before. He would sit down next to me and he'd say, sing this song, sing the third above me, and we would jam together. And he was like a friend. Okay. So Ron goes, I've got Stevie. He's going to sing with you. You're going to do a duet. I said, oh my God, that's brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. The song's called Used to Be. So he reads me the lyric and I'm like, wow, that's deep. That's heavy. Have you heard the song?
Yes, I have. And I was going to ask, so some of the lyrics, they're quite controversial. They were banned in some areas. How do you feel about them being banned? Because nowadays those lyrics, there's so many other different lyrics now that are more explicit. They more have, double meanings, innuendos. Do you just think the time wasn't right for that song? They weren't ready for it?
Definitely not right. The thing is, I make this joke. I go, Ron Miller hated the world, okay? And he was so expressive about it. And he wrote this lyric and threw me out in front as the spokesperson. People hated it. They were like, Charlene. I opened a newspaper. It said, Charlene, the magnificent failure. Oh.
It's awful.
A knife went into my heart. I was like, oh my God. And Ron, he's brilliant. He wrote Heaven Help Us All. Heaven help the child who never had a home. Those lyrics are so profound as well. And Used to Be just went deeper. It went so deep into the thing. And it was kind of misunderstood. You're 12 years old and sex is legal. It's not saying that's good. And your parents don't know where or who you are. It was kind of saying the truth. And it was timely. It was too ahead of its time. And Ron was so controversial. He wrote controversy. He wrote things that were just so deep.
Some people describe the music industry as a tiger. It tears you apart. It's all about timing and who you know. Would you agree?
Oh God, it's horrible. It's so. I feel sorry. Like I have a lot of kids who come into because I teach music. I teach piano and singing, and I have a lot of little girls, mainly girls, a few guys, but girls coming in. I want to be a star. I want to have this little girl. She's 8. She goes, I want to be a big star, Charlene. And I'm like, going, okay. She sings so cute. She's darling. And I'm like, and deep in my heart, I'm going, please don't. They're going to chew you up and spit you out, and it's so hard, and your soul is on the line, and you're exposed and you're open. And I mean, now I'm so much more knowledgeable, but back then I was really naive. I didn't understand, and it hurt.
Is there any advice that you'd love to give to yourself back then in that position?
Be smart and don't listen to people. I listened to the wrong people and signed a very, very bad contract, which basically said, you get 5 cents and we're going to make $1 million. Isn't that? It was bad. It was very bad. And I was dumb. I didn't think. I was just around a lot of people who didn't understand the music industry. And, I didn't understand it. I was a singer. That's all I was. I'd go in the studio, sing and go, hey, and that was it, but I didn't understand the wheels and the system of it, and the grinding and what it does. And the minute you turn 13 from 12, you're too old. I didn't understand that. I'm only kidding. But, it's like.
It highlights, though, definitely, I think the industry can be ageist at times. But now in your position of experience and, you're not caught up in you have a slower, more calmer feel, I think, with your music as well, your new track, Sea of Tranquility, that's highlighted. So that was released in September, probably in the most chaotic time ever in the world. You've released this most tranquil, calm track. How has that worked out?
I don't know. I'm still waiting to find out. It's going along. I mean, people love it. And I've got my next song called Emotional Scars, which is another one that I cut in the studio that Gavin and Ben Richards, Gavin Monahan and Ben Richards wrote Sea of Tranquility in Wolverhampton. That was their studio. And when I was in England last, I went to that studio, met him, and recorded Sea of Tranquility and Emotional Scars. The 3 of us wrote Emotional Scars. And so it's out of the same studio, and it has a very similar kind of feel as Sea of Tranquility. And it was fantastic, but the times are different, and I've got to take it as it comes. I'm not getting all blown out of shape. I've got 4 dogs that keep me busy. I've got my job with my kids, which I love.
You're an author as well.
I'm an author? Oh my God.
Yes, tell me about those. So an autobiography, Orphan Train, a children's book as well.
Yes, my autobiography. I was approached by a company named Beautiful Books in London, and they said, we want your life story. I said, are you sure? Really? You really want my life story? Nah, you don't want that. Coming back to America, I was approached by somebody. I started writing this book. Now, I don't know why the Holocaust and all that is never really, I've never been a real history person, but I just it was from a movie called, with Hilary Swank, Freedom Writers. There was a scene in Freedom Writers where a woman who had hidden the Jews in Poland, she hid them and she got them to safety, but then they were all executed, and she came back and she was telling her story. And I got kind of into that. I thought, oh my God, what if I write a book about a woman, a young, beautiful Jewish woman who's just taken in by a Commandant Schuster, the one who was going to be working, who was with Hitler. And he fell in love with her, passionately in love. And she's an artist, and her mother was famous. And the paintings, he wanted her to do a beautiful scene of Germany and Poland. And she painted the horrors of it. And she was very mistreated. And she fell pregnant, and she gave birth to 2 boys. And the book goes into their life. Bam, 25 years in the future. And they're both in different continents of the world, right? And they're both painting and sculpting what they've seen in their mind. And it's the painting that she did because she prayed to God, please God, because when she let the boys go, there was a branding, a tattoo on their ankle that said freedom in Polish. Okay. She said, if my boys are ever found, they're going to find each other because of that tattoo. So they're in different places and they're both being haunted by this thing. A stranger comes to one of them and says, you're going to find your mother, you find your brother, you're going to do all this. And they finally meet up in a very weird way.
Sounds like you need to make that into a movie. That sounds incredible.
You know what? I got the best write-up on Shoreline Productions, a film thing. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get a movie out of this. And it just never really happened. But the only advice I can give anybody is just don't do what I did. Don't sleepwalk through this. You've got to be aware. You've got to be awake. You've got to know who you're around. You've got to surround yourself with people that are good for you. And, because if something happens and you get a break and you're around a lot of people who aren't very good for you, they're going to lead you down a path that could be really dangerous. People were trying to peddle drugs to me when I was in the studio at Motown, and I had my hit. I was doing one of my next albums, and this guy goes, oh, Charlene, I've got an 8-track for you. And I'm like, I don't know how to run an 8-track, but that's cocaine, 8 tracks.
Oh my gosh.
Cocaine. Because I said to my engineer, Russ, somebody's on the phone offering me an 8-track. He goes, I had the phone muffled, right? And he said, they're offering you cocaine. And I go, hi, can I get your name? Yeah, I'm going to call the police and have you arrested.
Gosh.
So I had a lot of fun with it. But the advice I give to people is, my God, just have your head screwed on.
Keep up to date with all of Charlene Oliver's new music on Spotify or any wonderful other platform, from one woman achieving her dreams to another. I speak to travel lover and author of The House That Alice Built and New Beginnings at the Little House in the Sun, Chris Penhall. She tells me why she was drawn to the wonders of Portugal, and in particular Cascais, about the importance of travelling in opening people's horizons and perspectives, and how you can achieve your dreams at any point in your life. First up, she tells me what inspired her writing.
The novels are both set in Cascais, near Lisbon in Portugal, and I lived there for a few years, many years ago. And what I remember when we first arrived in Cascais was the colour and the vibrancy and the light, and the fact that people were outside a lot, unlike the UK, because of the weather. And I think that's what inspired me. It's just constantly, it's either the sky is blue or the sea is blue and green, or the bougainvillea is pink. And I think that the fact that it's different, and the fact that I was only there for a few years, enhanced it for me, and it made me appreciate it and remember it a lot more. And I'm very, very drawn to that. And I think that's why when I write my books, I tend to bring that into them, because I want people to feel that they are there. When we went over there, it was for my late husband's job, and our daughters were very small. And when you're bringing up children when they're toddlers, it's absolutely wonderful. But he was working a lot, and I was on my own. I worked when one of my daughters was a baby, but when we had my second daughter, I sort of stopped for a little while. I was on a career break, and it was just quite hard work. It really is, there's no getting away from that. And he was working shifts and all sorts of things. And we went to Cascais, and it was like somebody switched a light on, actually, because that it just slowed us down a bit. For once, we were so busy looking ahead, which is what you do sometimes when you're younger and you want to build a life. You're so intrepid trying to build foundations for the future, you forget to enjoy what's around you. And we couldn't not enjoy it, because it was the pace of life was different. Everybody was outside. It's very sociable. It is, isn't it? In Southern Europe, people are out eating, they're out having coffee, they're out doing this. And I think that that was the thing that made me warm to it so much, and it made me more confident. I mean, I wasn't very good at languages at school, and then I went to Portugal with like 4 words. Bom dia, hola, oh no, obrigada, so it's more than 4 words, because pudim flam was another one, and that's a cake.
The essentials.
Oh, I forgot Vino Verde. I forgot that. It was a while ago. It was before the internet, really, and it was you couldn't just suddenly switch on and learn Portuguese. I couldn't do that. We had 2 months' notice to go, so I arrived and I learned Portuguese. I got quite good at it. I'm not now. I've forgotten most of it. I got quite good at it. It made me more confident. I was out more. I had to drive on the right-hand side of the road. I was too frightened to drive on the M25 when we went over there, and because of all of that, when we came back, it was sort of imprinted in my mind, really, and I've continued to go back there. I'm sort of go to Lagos in the Algarve a lot, and I just, when I go there, I go, oh, relax, here I am, and I think that's why I brought it to life in the books.
Definitely, and I think you've really highlighted there, it is the pace of life that people get sucked into in the UK, but in the Mediterranean, even in Canada, people have a better work-life balance. You're talking about how travel, opens your minds and pushes you to experience new things. Is that what you wanted to highlight through Alice's character and getting that postcard and experiencing new things? Do you think travel evokes that kind of spirit in people's life and journeys?
Oh, of course it does. I think it's really important to go and see things from other people's perspectives. I think it changes you, doesn't it? Because it's very easy to get stuck in what you think is the way that you live. It's the way everybody lives, and it isn't. Even in subtle ways, because obviously Portugal is in Europe, and I'd been on holidays to Europe, so it wasn't a huge shift, but it was, in a way, to the way I was used to living, because I was able to slow down and see that the way of just working wasn't necessarily healthy. You could get a lot out of life just by relaxing a bit, and I think it's very important to just go and see things from another perspective. If I had the opportunity, I would go and live somewhere else as well. I just want to travel around now. I've been brought up my girls on my own, and they're off doing their own thing, and so now I want to go and do all the things I sort of thought I would do, and they've gone off. One of my daughters lived in Hong Kong for a while, and the other one was an au pair in Barcelona, and my best friend from school lives in Luxembourg. I've got friends that live in Hong Kong. My brother lives in Australia, and I think it's just having those connections for everybody makes the world feel accessible, and it also makes you understand what everybody else is seeing, really, and they're not just seeing things from your perspective.
Definitely. Wow, that's incredible that you've got so many friends and family all over the world. Where do you think you'd want to move to next, or even travel next, where you think as soon as restrictions lifted, you're out of here?
I am. I've got a long list of places I want to go to. I want to go to Vietnam. I want to try. I think that's on my list. I rather like the idea of Costa Rica. I want to go to California and Hawaii, because I've wanted to go to these places since I was a child. I've never quite got there. I want to go to Hawaii because when I was little, there was a program called Hawaii 5-0 on. I just would like to. I want to go everywhere.
Sounds it.
Well,
in a nutshell,
you've been traveling forever, since forever. You're just off everywhere. I've been doing other things, and I'm a bit slower. So yes, I don't think I'm going to catch up, but I want to do it. And what I did do during the first lockdown was when the bookshop started to open, because obviously I have to go to a bookshop first, port of call. I bought a book about Vietnam, and then I bought one on Costa Rica, as if I put them on my shelf and I'd go, no, I have got to go there because it's there.
But when you went back to do your second book and get inspired 15 years later, what was that like? It must have changed in some ways, but then not changed at all.
Yes, because I had been to Cascais a few times in the early 2000s, when I was first on my own and with my children, with my friends, but I'd never stayed in Lisbon. And then I started going to Lagos in the Algarve, and I hadn't been for about 15 years. And I decided to go with my youngest daughter, who hadn't been to Lisbon since we left, which was in 1998. So she was 5. So I stayed in Lisbon, and I can't explain how I felt. I feel quite emotional about it. we stayed by Rossio Square in a little hotel, and I just look out of the window every day and feel connected to it. And I can't explain why, because I never stayed in Lisbon when we were there, but it was somewhere we used to go to because it was only an hour away on the train. I remember going to Cascais, and it was a sunny day. We'd sort of decided we'd go to Cascais because I couldn't go to Lisbon and not go to Cascais. And I got on the train, and my daughter was trying to calm me down. I was on the train going, "Oh, look, that's where you went to school, and that's where we did this. And do you remember all of this?" And all the way for half an hour, her mother was going, "Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this." And I got off at the train, and this is no word of a lie, I am known for the fact that I amble rather than walk. And this is something I learnt in Portugal. I do actually walk quite slowly, and I don't realise I do it. Apparently, I virtually ran. I'm here. And then I walked down the street, and it has changed. It has changed. The main street from the station has, the shops have changed. There were a few more sort of holiday touristy shops there, which weren't there when I was there, because it was a very long time ago, but it still felt the same. And I walked down to the square where I used to sit a lot with my friends, and we practice our Portuguese very badly. And it's where a lot of the action takes place in the first book and in the second book, which I hadn't really finished by then. And I walked down to the square, and I remember thinking, oh gosh, is this going to be different? Is it? And I went, and it was a November Sunday. It was very sunny, but it was sort of about 11 o'clock, so there was nobody there. There was one table occupied, and the square I'm talking about has lots of different cafes and restaurants, and they all sort of higgledy-piggledy, they all join together. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll sit down and have a cup of coffee. And I forced my daughter to take photographs of the bougainvillea, a slight obsession of mine, because she's got a better camera than me. And we were standing there, and I saw a waiter looking at us, and my daughter said, that waiter's waving at us, Mum. And I said, oh, well, he's probably just, wanting to get us into, trying to get our attention to get into the into the cafe. And I looked at him, I thought, actually, I know you. And I went over to him, and I said, is that? And he said, and I won't say his name, he said, yes, it is, it's me. And it's somebody I knew when we lived there. Our children, we used to go into the cafe, and he was there. And the last time I went, which must have been 2004 or 2005, he wasn't there, and I never thought I'd see him again. And he'd gone away, and he'd come back again, and he'd remembered us. And I thought, oh, that's what I'm writing about. And then, so we had a coffee and a catch up over 15 years. We went off, and then something wonderful happened. We went off, and we came back, and sat down at the same cafe. And as I went in, one of the waiters asked me what I wanted, and I said in Portuguese, I just want something to eat. No, something to drink, nothing to eat. And there was a busker playing, and he said, no word of a lie, oh, what more do you want? Music, wine, love. And I thought, oh, I haven't made this up. What's going on? What's in those books? It actually did happen. World I've conjured up.
Do you believe in certain things happening for certain reasons and fate at all? Because that feels like an incredible moment of the universe connecting you both. Like, what are the chances of that?
Well, in the morning, and this is true because I sort of got a picture of it. And I think I put something on Instagram because I was so surprised. We were staying in a little boutique hotel, and my daughter was getting ready. It was taking a long time. And so I was reading the info, the little info book. And at the front of the book was some quotes from Alice in Wonderland, and the heroine of both my books is called Alice. The first one's the house that Alice built, and there's an element of that kind of wonder and going into a different world and all the colour, etc. in it. And in it said, this is before we went to Cascais, and I can't remember exactly, but it said at the end of it something like, and so many out of the way things had happened recently that Alice thought that nothing was impossible. I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's Alice in Wonderland, and off I go to Cascais, and I meet my past.
Wow.
And so I thought, I was halfway through writing The New Beginnings at the Little House in the Sun, which is a sequel, and I just sort of made it more part of that, because a lot of it is about confronting your past. Although that was a good past, but confronting the issues you have in your past, and how they affect how you see the world, really.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So obviously I completely understand the connection to a place. I mean, whenever someone even mentions the word Bahrain, I'm like, I get warm and fuzzy inside. Or if I'm walking in London, I can smell shisha or Arabic coffee. It brings me right back, and it transports you to that moment in time, that place you have a huge connection with. Do you ever see yourself writing a book that's present in a different location? Maybe spend some time there and explore it and inspire a future novel? And also, how important is it for a setting to be focused in a novel?
Well, actually, I am writing another novel, and this one's set in Wales, which is
Oh,
where I'm from.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's slightly different in the sense that it's the first two novels are very much about Cascais and Lisbon and specific places, whereas this one is more, it's more made up really, because I am from South Wales. I'm from near Swansea, so the Gower Peninsula was a big part of my childhood when we lived there, and I also know Pembrokeshire. And my dad used to love a beach, so we used to go to beaches in South Wales like Southern Down and West Bay and Porthcawl. So that's all sort of where it is, but it's not so specific. So I've created more of a feeling, and I've cobbled places together. So the place where my main character is staying is based on a place in Pembrokeshire called Solva, but the beach is sort of Newgale, which is somewhere else. And I've also somehow managed to write a romantic scene set in Neath, which is where I'm from, and possibly not the most romantic place in the world, but it's an old industrialized town. And but I sort of have written a romantic scene on a hill where you can see all of the industry and the lights from the industry, but also the stars and everything like that. So it's slightly different. It's based in a place, but not as specifically as my first two novels. And I read books that aren't like that. I don't really plan to write. I didn't plan to do it the way I have done. It's just what comes out of my head, really. And so I think that a novel is whatever the way the novelist sees the world. So I will read books that haven't got a sense of place or don't describe that, and enjoy them just as much, but that's what comes out of my head. And one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite novels, it's the opening line, is from Rebecca, which is, "Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again," which is so evocative and absolutely wonderful. But she doesn't talk about specifically about where it is, etc. It's in Cornwall, and I know Cornwall as well, and I know where some of it is set, etc. But it's a different way of evoking a place. With Alice, the character in the first two novels, she is somebody that was very creative when she was growing up and had to earn a living and was unable to continue. So she sees things through that eye. So she will just see all the colour and everything because it inspires her. So yeah, that's how I roll. I don't know. I've got some ideas for other novels as well. So we'll see how it evolves.
You're on fire. So that's the thing. Your style of writing and your upbringing and your passions and experiences, that shapes your writing. I mean, looking back, being a lover of travel, did you ever think that you were going to be writing 3 books, possibly more, having your books turned into audiobooks? I mean, how has the experience been?
Oh, well, as you know, because you've been around while it's been going on, it's been fantastic, and I'm very excited and not cool about it at all. Everybody, I'm writing a book. I always I've always read. My family always read. There were always library books in the house. I was always encouraged to read, and I love reading. And I always wanted to be a writer, but I never thought I could do it. It seemed to be something that I always felt other people could do. And I also read so many good books that I think that when I was younger, I assumed you had to be excellent at it from the get-go. And now I realise unless you write something, you can't improve it. And so as soon as I started doing that, I was able to write. And I was doing it, once I decided it was for me, because it was an escape, really, for me, rather than I have to write this to get it published. I enjoyed it for the sake of it, to be honest with you. So I did start sending it off, and I did get many rejections. But because it wasn't the be-all and end-all of what I wanted, it sort of came as a pleasant surprise.
What would you say to people who, are thinking of writing and they're struggling to put the pen to paper, fingers to keyboard to actually do it because they're terrified of rejection, or they feel that they don't have the time?
I would say just dive in. I did it once years ago. I remember before computers and the internet, because I'm that old. I remember going home from work, and my husband was working nights, and I thought, right, today I'm going to start writing, and I can see I know where I was in the house we were living in, where I was sitting. I had a pad, I had a pen, and I just sat there and I didn't write anything at all. And I remember thinking, oh, I can't do this, it's too hard. I haven't got anything to write. And I wish then I'd sort of talked to myself and said, just write a sentence. Once you've written a sentence, you've written a sentence. As soon as you start writing, you can just add on to it. You don't have to have a target of numbers of words a day, because basically until you've got a book deal and somebody wants you to write something and you've got a deadline, you're doing it for yourself, really. And I would say read loads. There are courses you can do if you want to spend the money, but there's a free course you can do with the Open University, actually, online, and a short story course, and that gets you to write exercises and things like that. And that's a really useful way of writing and getting used to writing things. And they don't even have to be fully formed pieces, they can just be bits and bobs. There's loads of things online now, Facebook groups and things like that, of people who are writing. And I would say be around people that love reading. Talk about books if you want to, because it makes it more accessible. I think if you're around people that are doing things that you want to do, it makes it seem that something that's not quite so far away. Because for many years I used to record extra content for the Rich and Judy Book Club podcast. I stopped doing that sort of earlier this year, but I just used to record little bits with the authors before they went down and did their main interview. And it was a lot of just talking to people, really. I was just around people that had done what I wanted to do, and they weren't all wearing smoking jackets. They didn't all live in attics. They were just really talented, clever people, but they also were very tenacious and determined and hardworking. And I remember one of the stock questions I used to ask them was, what advice would you give a writer? Wanting them, and I say this all the time because it's the absolute truth, just wanting one of them to say, well, get a bottle of Prosecco, go out by the light of a full moon, turn around 3 times, drink the bottle of Prosecco, a writer, and you will wake up and you will be a writer. And nobody did. It was just basically, you've just got to keep writing. So yes, just don't be frightened. Do it for yourself, really, because it's taken me a long time.
But you're achieving your dreams, though, and that's exciting. That's something to be proud of. So I think that's wonderful.
Oh no, I'm thrilled. Honestly, I've achieved my childhood ambition. I've achieved my dream. Whatever happens to it, I've achieved it, and it's made me feel different about everything. I think that's what finding your dreams does for you. It makes you feel different about yourself, I think. So, and pursuing them. Go for it. Nothing is out of reach.
Go for it. Nothing is out of reach. Powerful words there from Chris. She really makes me just want to go and write a book right here, right now. Make sure you check out her books, The House That Alice Built and New Beginnings at the Little House in the Sun. From one author with practical tips to another. Now, Tenny Edwards, author of Walk with Wings, spoken word artist and self-love enthusiast. She tells me about focusing on gratitude throughout this time, her expansion of products, inspiration behind her book Walk with Wings, and how self-love is an ongoing journey.
I feel like I've grown so much in terms of my career as a writer, and just in myself, like my confidence and my self-esteem. When I think back to then, I feel like I was still processing the past, which I feel like still comes up like every now and then. I feel I don't know, like something will happen and then it will trigger that trauma again and those experiences. But I feel like I've come a long way in my self-love journey, which of course is never ending because there's no destination, right? But I definitely feel like I've grown as a person.
I think so. I think you definitely have as well, because I was listening back to the interview actually, and you were telling me before how you were set for this other career, and you've just had your book published. So as you rightly said, I think you were processing it, and now you've built your following even more so, and your words have reached more people, and you're understanding and appreciating just how incredible your own work is. During these times where, you know, we can be uncertain, it can be stressful, have you been creative and writing poetry throughout lockdown?
Yeah, so I feel like I've been creative in a variety of different ways. I mean, I know that a lot of people are struggling with feelings of loneliness right now, which is a feeling that I struggled with at the beginning of lockdown. Because when it all sank in, it almost felt like a movie. Like I really couldn't believe what was happening. But I really had to sit down with myself and tell myself, actually, I'm going to focus on the positive and think about what I can do to make sure I am bringing joy to my life, and to make sure that, you know, I am remaining sane through this and still having that positive outlook. So I just went to my gratitude journal and just started journaling like all the things that I'm grateful for. And I even put a post out on my Instagram account saying, I am grateful for the gift of breath, because that is just something so simple to be grateful about. And I just think when you put yourself in this mindset to think of the things that you appreciate, it really helps you to feel better about yourself, and it helps you to remain focused on the positive things that are happening in your life. And I took this time to really expand on my products, from books to greeting cards, which I'm now doing now. And I'm also working on new products to launch, such as key rings and clothing, which is something that my audience has requested. And I started reading a lot more as well. So I spend 30 minutes a day reading a personal development book, which has opened my mind to so many new things, and it's just helped me in my growth and understand myself a lot more. And yeah, I've just been doing things that I know bring me joy, and that has really helped me get through these difficult times.
Wow, it sounds incredible. You've got so many things up your sleeve that you're working on, not only yourself, but also your business is incredible. And your writing, even just that one line, you know, I'm grateful for my breath. It feels so powerful, especially in this time when it's a disease that obviously a virus that targets our breath and our lungs. Going back to what inspired you to write Walk with Wings, that was a stressful and uncertain time as well. Tell me what the process was like writing the book.
Well, to begin with, to be honest, I didn't have any plans to write a book. I found myself in a really dark place, in terms of I was going through heartbreak, and I just really felt really insecure about myself and really down, because I remember at that time it was the second guy I had dated who had left me for somebody else. And I just really blamed that on my outer appearance. Like I felt like I wasn't beautiful enough for them. And that's how I realized that that's how I valued myself, based on my outer appearance. And it was only when I started to write about how I was feeling that I realized that that was causing me damage, and that was really, really wrong, you know, doing that, because that really impacted my self-esteem. And to begin with, when I started writing, it was just a matter of getting my thoughts and feelings out of my head, because I am quite a quiet person and I don't like to open up to people. But I've always journaled as a child, and I think it was just me going back to my safe space, which was my journal. And I wrote most of my pieces in bed, because I felt like that was my safe space as well. And that's where I spend most of my time reflecting, and that's where I spend most of my time alone. So I think that being in my bed, it just gave me comfort, and it made me think about, you know, what it is that was going on in my head. And when I wrote that down, I just felt like so relieved. I can't even explain the feeling. It just felt like such a release to get it out of my head. And that's when I really started to understand myself. And writing helped me to open myself up and get really raw and honest with myself. And that was the beginning of my healing journey. I then started to post on Instagram. I guess I just really wanted to see whether anybody could resonate with what I was saying, because I felt really misunderstood at the time, and I was really embarrassed as well about the situation. So going to family and friends like wasn't an option at all. So I created an anonymous account on Instagram and just started posting my thoughts and feelings. And then I realized that so many people were able to resonate with what I was saying. So I thought, okay, lots of people are resonating, and I can see that my words are impacting people in a positive way. How can I bring what I've written on social media together in a way where in a form that people can I don't know, in a form that people can touch and feel and really reread over and over again if they wanted to, in their comfort space. So that's what made me create Walk with Wings. I wanted to give something to my readers that they can hold, make their own, because I've seen people colouring some of the illustrations in the book, highlighting pages in the book, and that's really heartwarming for me. And yeah, that was why I created the book.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, I've read it myself, and I gave my copy to my best friend in Canada. I sent it over to her last Christmas. Yeah, and she was blown away as well. And she's even passed it on to other people there. But tell me more about your journey as publishing. Did you reach out to the good quote?
Sure. So I originally self-published Walk with Wings because I guess I'm quite an impatient person, and I did like bring my readers along the journey with me. So I told them that I was writing the book, and I think that's really important. If you're thinking of writing a book, it's important to let people know so that you create the audience beforehand, before you even publish the book, so you've got people ready to buy for when it's published. And even though I didn't know what I was doing at the time, I've realized now that me doing that really helped to create my audience and to build that buzz. I then started really studying Instagram and studying how it works and seeing how I can market myself as a new author on Instagram. And I came across like big quote accounts like The Good Quote, and I just DM'd them, asking if they would be willing to share some of my words on their platform, because I knew that they had a huge following, and if they were to do so, then that would expose my words to their audience. So that's what I did. Didn't get a reply. I would tag them to my posts, like every post I put out there, I would tag them to it, and I did that for years, until one day they finally messaged me. They finally saw that I had tagged them to one of my posts, and they messaged me, and they said that they were interested in my book because they were starting an agency where they would be publishing authors. So yeah, and then we had a meeting in Joe and the Juice. I don't know if you know that store.
Yeah, the chain.
Yeah.
That's so surreal. Oh my gosh, that's incredible in itself, that all those years you never gave up. You kept tagging their posts, waiting till someone will give you an answer. Like, that's inspirational in itself for you to do that. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and the rest was history. I mean, they were interested in the book, they republished it, and it literally took like my social media account to the next level. My writing journey really grew, and a lot of people were being exposed to my work, and yeah, they just really helped me get myself out there. So it's been an incredible journey, and now I'm doing masterclasses to help other authors and aspiring authors get themselves out there and learn marketing strategies that I've implemented throughout the years in my journey.
That's amazing. Yes, that's something I wanted to pick up on. And also, you've got a shop as well, which you're selling like products, like you said, greeting cards and so on, and key rings. That's incredible that you've built yourself up. What is the secret to maintaining an audience, not giving too much away so people can go into your workshops? Because you've got over 50,000 followers. Your work has been seen by Wesley Snipes and so many other people, and has impacted so many people's lives.
What is the secret? Well, I guess it's important to have two-way conversations with your audience. I've seen that a lot of people post things that they think their audience would like and resonate with, but you don't know that unless you're asking your audience key questions around around different things, you know, around things that you need the answers to. And those answers from your questions will help ensure that your marketing is done in the most effective way, and ensure that you're creating posts that are valuable for the audience that you have, because you really want to nurture the audience that you've got. Whether you've got 100 people following you, 1,000 people following you, you really want to nurture the people you've got and share content that resonate with them, because they're the ones that are going to share your work and expose you to bigger audiences when your posts resonate with them. And that's what you need. You want those people to build a buzz around what it is that you're doing. So I think it's important to keep asking your audience questions.
That's so smart. Yeah, I'm absolutely rubbish at Instagram. I really am. So I need to learn from the master here. And how do you feel? Because obviously before you were a legal assistant, and now, you know, you're running your own business, you're an established author. Did you ever vision this in the future, that you would be where you are now?
No way, not at all. Like, none of what I'm doing now was part of my plan growing up. Like, I remember as a child, I used to name my dolls, and I used to play teachers, like with my dolls. I used to want to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be an architect, and then I embarked on this legal industry, which I didn't quite enjoy, because I just felt like I couldn't be myself. And it's only now that I've realized, reflecting back, that my creative side was being suppressed in that career, which is why I really didn't enjoy it. So it's definitely not something I had planned, but I guess life unfolds that way, right? You just never know what it is that, you know, you're going to end up doing. And I think as a child, I used to journal. So I think writing was something that I was always meant to do. And they say, if you don't know what it is that you were called to do, always think about the things that you did as a child, what brought you joy. Those are often the things that where your purpose lies in, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that wisdom. And before, you were reflecting on obviously what inspired your walk with wings was that you were going through, well, a breakup, and you were hurt. Why is it important to, during those moments, reflect on how you're feeling, and just writing, if that's journaling or if that's writing any kind of poetry or non-fiction or fiction, when you go through a breakup, and just be creative?
I honestly feel that everybody should journal. I think journaling for me like really helps to declutter my mind, and it helps me like bring clarity and focus. And it just really helped me to open myself up and explore like what it is that I was actually feeling and where these thoughts came from. And during that time when I was going through the breakup, I realized that the reason why I was feeling insecure about myself is because of the negative things that I was telling myself. You know, it was my self-talk. Like, I would look in the mirror and I would search for all the flaws, and then I would think about that, and then I would reflect on that, and then those negative thoughts just spiral out of control. You know, it's all about the law of attraction, which I learned in The Secret. If you think those things, you're going to attract more things that are going to make you feel that way, you know, that's going to bring you that misery. And also, I just feel like there's so much noise that society makes for us, that it can sometimes lead us away from ourselves, where journaling helps you like tap into your inner voice, that intuition. And it just helps you to really understand yourself, and it helps you to face like the trauma and the things that are making you feel that way. And that's what it did for me. And I honestly feel like journaling should be something that everybody does.
Yeah, I went through a breakup in March, and it was so important for me to be reflecting and writing and processing how I was feeling by writing everything. And this is something that I'm never going to share. You know, you took snippets and it was creative and you posted it online and you've built yourself up. But this is something that, you know, I'm not going to share with other people. But yeah. I think it's so important to process and, you know, have that conversation with yourself. You've touched on it slightly about self-love and affirmation. Why is it so important for society? Do you think, firstly, firstly, we're in a society where there is enough self-love, and secondly, I'm not talking about self-love as, you know, face masks and painting your nails, but actually working on your own issues. Do you think people are registering that and working on it?
I feel like we've come a long way. I feel a lot more people are speaking about it, especially like with social media, with the use of social media now. I think there's a lot more awareness now about the importance of practicing self-love. However, I do feel that a lot of people are still struggling with it. And I feel like this is a topic that should be taught in schools. And it's just so unfortunate that it's not a topic that's taught, because these skills are so necessary for life, you know? And that's why I make a conscious effort to keep posting about it, keep talking about it, and keep encouraging people to practice it. And the practice of self-love is like the foundation for anything, I think, for relationships, for your career, business. It's so important that you have that love with yourself first, because that's how you create boundaries, and that's how you create a life of joy, and a life that you feel that you deserve.
100%. Oh my gosh, before this year I didn't even really know what boundaries was, and now I'm growing a lot this year. So you mentioned those 5 tips. What are they?
So one of those tips was read for 30 minutes every morning, at the beginning of the morning, so that you're nourishing your mind before you even start your day. And I think that really helps to get you ready for the day. Another tip was create a list of the things that you're grateful for. I think that's important as well, to set your mind in a positive way. Another tip was to brain dump in a journal. That helps to clear your mind and helps you to remain focused and brings clarity to your life. Another tip was to get involved in a visualization process, like visualize how you see your future, and write that down. Whatever comes to your head, write it down. And I think that helps with clarity and focus as well.
I've just started doing a vision board, actually. Would you recommend that?
Yeah, definitely. I've created a vision board as well, and I've hanged it up like on my wall, so that I literally see it every time I'm in my room, and I spend most of my time in my room, and that really helps me stay focused as well. And I actually had my current publishers, I had them on my vision board in 2018, and yeah, and they reached out to me. So
Tenny made some really good points in that interview about self-love and basically us just being so critical all the time. If you want to find out more about her poetry, her book, her masterclasses, her self-love process and progress, feel free to follow her on Instagram, Tenny Edwards. Thank you so much to my wonderful guests, Charlene Oliver, Chris Penhall and Tenny Edwards, and for you for listening too. Make sure to comment, subscribe, rate and share. I'm Vicky Carter, and you keep kicking ass. See you in 2021. Woo!